Good evening and welcome to everyone on Zoom, Facebook, and YouTube. On behalf of the Manhattan Meditation Center, we're so happy to have everyone with us today. Before going into today's session, I just wanted to mention some ongoing offerings and upcoming sessions that we have at the Manhattan Meditation Center. We offer 15-minute live daily meditations Monday through Friday, noon Eastern Standard Time. So please do join us whenever possible live. Otherwise, you can find access to the recordings from the Manhattan website, which I will share in the chat shortly. We also have a 2-day meditation course coming up on October 15th and 16th from 11 to 12:30. So if you'd like to learn a method for meditation or enhance your current practice, please do join us. Finally, the recording for this session will be available on YouTube and Facebook. So today's topic, the art and science of relationships, is one that I imagine has piqued each one of our interests, since relationships are such a key part in our happiness and well-being. So we have our lovely sister Judy Rodgers with us today to share her insights on this topic. Welcome, Sister Judy.
Thank you, Mona. I appreciate it. Glad to be with you. Nice to have you hosting. So relationships. This is big, isn't it? I mean, our whole life is a network of relationships. And, you know, the quality of these relationships can't be any higher or better than the quality of our intentions and our thoughts and our feelings about those relationships. So one thing we will not talk about tonight is how you can change all those people in your life. All right? I know that would be what you'd really like to talk about, right? How you can improve your boss, your landlord, your sister-in-law, your child, you know, how to get them on board with the program. But we're not going to talk about that. In fact, I'm actually going to take you on a bit of a high road, which I thought about whether it was too much, and I decided, no, you're my friends from many weeks, and I think we should take the high road here. So I'm going to offer an approach to this that's a little bit different. So I don't think you would be watching tonight or today, whenever you're watching this, if you weren't interested in the spiritual life. True? I mean, you'd be doing something else. You'd be, I don't know what you'd be doing. You'd be somewhere else doing something else. So you are here because you are interested in the spiritual life. And I'm going to even go further than that and suggest that you probably have a spiritual practice. Let me just see if you can use the reaction thing. Let me just see how many of you have a spiritual practice. I mean, either put your hand up on the screen or signal me in the, okay, that's what I thought. Show me in the, with your reaction things, your little, yeah, okay. All right, so I'm going to base it. Most of you have a spiritual practice. So that's why I think we can go this route. So, let me ask you further, is your spiritual practice, now we're getting down to the refined level of questioning here, is your spiritual practice connected with Raj Yoga? Do you understand the basics of Raj Yoga as taught by the Brahma Kumaris? Yeah? Let me just see. You understand? Okay. All right, because I think that's what is actually going to help here, and I'm going to explain why. So when you study Raj Yoga, there is a few basic understandings that are offered. One of these, kind of the big one, has to do with who you are, who each of us is. That is, that we're this being inside. We do have the body and the personality and the family and all of that, but that we are these kind of deeper beings inside. So that's one aspect of Raj Yoga. And a related aspect is that there is a God, and this God is not omnipresent. How many of you are still struggling with this omnipresence thing? You still think he might be in flowers and clouds and things, yeah? No? Okay, good, because that's fundamental to what I'm going to propose to you tonight. So our understanding is that this source being, this original source being, holds the ultimate capacity for the soul and is unusually available at this time. Now, we also have a belief about this time. And one aspect of this belief is that actually this is a very hard time in the world. That the natural part of the world, the ocean, the ground, the water, etc., are actually weakened and volatile. I mean, look at this hurricane that just rolled through Florida yesterday, right? And the earthquake in Mexico, and we can go on and on, right? Every day we're hearing something. So our understanding is that actually we're in a time when the elements are very weak and very volatile. And that also the human beings are kind of weak and kind of volatile. I mean, you may know someone who's kind of like Hurricane Ian, right? I mean, you could be married to them, or you could have them as a landlord, or you might know someone who's explosive like that earthquake in Mexico. There is something going on in the world, and we are witnessing it, and it's really clear that the underlying condition of the world requires that we have a different approach to being in the world, which is probably why you have a consistent meditation practice, because you become aware that to try to deal with a world like this requires special, what you might call finesse, special gifts, special insights. So an aspect of Raj Yoga is that we wake up when we become aware that we are these beings, these deeper, more eternal beings, and that we can change ourselves significantly by learning how to connect with this source, for whom there's a million names. The great light, the eternal one, the great one, the God, the supreme soul. There's thousands of names for this being. But our understanding is that at this time, that this source energy, this supreme soul, is unusually available to the souls, the children of the supreme soul, unusually available if we know how to make that connection. This is a big hypothesis. This is a really big proposal that this time is that different and that we have that capacity. And if you have tested it in your own personal life, you probably have been able to say, yeah, I get this. I can feel that this is transformative. And so I want to offer that frame for what I'm going to propose about relationships, because I think it's the only way to actually get at successful relationships in this time. So I'll start there and I'll come back to this at the end. So, what is our old notion of relationships? Could be could be recently old, could be that you're currently feeling this kind of thing in your relationships. But one of the notions we have about relationships is that we not only love them, but we need them, right? We need them. A second one is that we kind of have some expectations of what they should do. I mean, after all, right? There's some things that they should do to be in relationship. And it could be a short list and it could be a longer list, but we have some things that we believe they should do. We see them often as they might be. This is especially true of children. We see what they could be, or spouses. If only you would fill in the blank, right? If only you would listen, if only you would go to bed earlier, if only you would handle money better, if only you'd listen to me, right? If only you would do something different, look how wonderful you could be. And we probably see that, sometimes we see that as a good thing, a compliment. See, I'm seeing how great they could be. And we also presume that relationships are a give and take, right? Right? We give, they give, we take, they take, we give, they take, etc. And in our head, there's a very tiny, tiny scale. And that scale goes, wait a minute, I gave. Where's their part of this? Right? Come on, I need you do the driving this time. I drove the whole way last time. You help pay for this. You get up early with the baby. You whatever. So the scales can balance out, right? So there's give and take. That's kind of, and I'm giving you just a few points, but this is kind of how we think about relationship, right? Now, what does this bring us when we think about relationship like this? Does it make us joyful? No, not usually. Not usually. So what happens? Well, for one thing, when I can think how wonderful you could be, if only you would do such and such, then the state I'm actually in is disappointment, right? I'm like, you're not this. You could be. You're so smart, or you're so energetic, or you're so athletic, or you're so clever, you're so whatever. You could be this. But what I'm actually saying to them is, actually, I'm really disappointed in who you are, because you're not that. We find our minds being pulled by these relationships. We think about them quite a bit. And when we think about them, what are we thinking? Are we thinking, what a great person this is? How wonderful they are in my life? Well, sometimes we might be thinking that, but a lot of times what we're thinking is, I don't know why she spoke to me that way. There was no reason. I didn't do anything that should have made her speak to me that way. Or it was such a small thing I requested. I only asked for a small thing and she couldn't even do that, right? This is the kind of thing that pulls the mind. And these are little movies that play in the mind. Now, when we play the little disappointment movies, how do we feel? We don't feel very good, right? Exactly. We feel unhappy. We feel unhappy over and over again. Every time the little disappointment movie plays, and I would say that they sometimes fill our minds, these little movies, we feel disappointed and a little bit indignant. And we might even rehearse in our mind what we'd like to say to them when we see them again. How we'd like to tell them about this or that, right? We experience a level of ongoing wanting. I want this from this one. I want this to be the case in my life. I want this to work. I want someone who's going to come through for me like this. I want someone who's going to be a real friend. I want a mother like the mother that my friend has, a big, cozy, huggy one. I don't want the one I have that's so demanding or so unresponsive or so ungrateful. So we end up with these discourses in the mind about wanting. We actually may feel quite alone in relationship. Does anyone know what that feels like? You've got someone there, but actually you feel quite alone. You don't feel like they're fulfilling that need that you have, that desire for that right kind of company. So you feel pretty alone. That happens a lot. We may try to make them change certain things, right? We may tee up, you know what? I've decided you're going to be healthy. And so I only have in the refrigerator things that are healthy things. Or I've decided we're both going to lose weight. So tomorrow morning, my coach is going to show up and help us. Or I've decided that it's time for us to be prompt. We can't be late all the time, right? We've got these little projects that we share with them where we want them to change and be a different person. Now, that creates not only disappointment in me, but how do they feel? How's the other person feel when we show up with our change project for them? Not so great, right? So we have to think about relationship in a different way. Now, I think the starting point with this is to think about ourselves in a different way. Because the way we're conceiving of relationship has everything to do with the way we're conceiving of ourselves. So we tend to find people who can kind of do the other part of what we can't do, tend to kind of finish us off, kind of bring the balancing part. But actually, each soul needs to be complete in and of itself, right? That's what your meditation practice suggests. It's not that you go find someone and together you're complete, whether this is a boss or this is a family unit or whatever, but your meditation practice tells you that actually the ambition of the soul, the intention of the soul, the intention of the true self is to be complete by ourselves. That doesn't mean that we are excellent at everything. That doesn't mean we don't need to hire someone to do our plumbing because we got good at it. What it means is that in terms of the basic nature of the human being, we become full. We become complete. We aren't empty. You see, there's a kind of emptiness that develops in us in a lot of ways. I mean, there's a peacelessness that comes, right? A restlessness that comes. And we look for ways outside to become peaceful or comfortable or contented. There's a feeling of being unloved that comes. And so we go outside and look for someone to make us feel loved. I mean, I think the rise in purchases of rescue dogs or acquisition of rescue dogs during COVID is probably a perfect example of what we do to feel loved. I'm going to go get myself one of those little dogs that needs love. I'm just going to love all over it and it will love me back. True enough. But this sense of how do I become filled with love? How do I become filled with peace? How do I become filled with happiness? So that I'm not looking for someone else to make me happy or something else to make me happy. It's as we've lost these inner capacities, as we've lost our capacity to be at peace, as we've lost our capacity to be filled with love, as we've lost our capacity to be joyful, we have turned to the outside world in lots of different ways, right? Sometimes we go shopping, sometimes online and in person. Sometimes we join groups or look for people who are going to fulfill us. We get that rescue dog. We pick up things to keep ourselves busy. And some of the things we pick up are fine. It's not that the things we decide to do are bad things, but what happens is we pick these things up to try to make ourselves whole, and we don't become whole. That's not the way for the soul, the true self, to become full. Now, why do we need to become full? Because that is what transforms relationships. So, if through my wisdom and my practice, I begin to develop a larger capacity for peace, then when everything around me is falling apart, I can donate peace. I can bring that to the situation. I can bring that to the relationship. When I develop that place, that experience inside of being completely loved and completely able to receive love, now I've got something to share. And when I develop that sense of that inner happiness, I didn't have to be entertained. It's just part of my attributes, part of what the container that is me. Now I have something to share. And see, when I'm in that state, when I have made myself complete like that, when I'm contented, when I'm happy, when I'm loving, kind, compassionate, etc., that changes the relationship. So I think there's 5 things that we could propose to do in relationship. And I'm going to come back around to how we're going to get there, but here's the 5 things that I think will transform our relationships if we do these 5 things. So number 1, when you look at the other one, you see the being inside. So when you look at them, yes, you see the body, the clothes, all of the rest of it, but actually you hold that gaze, you're looking here, you look into that person and you see the true self. So you're engaged, that's who your relationship is with, not this physical being with all of its problems and complications. So you start there. And the best way to do that is that you're in that state first. So you're in your true self. You set aside the labels, the roles, all of the rest of it. Just set it aside, step away. You can pick it up whenever you want. But in your true self, now you look into that other one with a lot of understanding of who that is. They will feel that you're looking at them differently. They won't be able to tell you what it is, but they will feel that it's different. So you start there. You, the true self, look at the true self. Number 2, you notice what is special about that one. Every soul has specialties. And what happens to us sometimes when a relationship has gotten complex is we only see the things that aren't working for us. We only see the ways they let us down. We only see the ways they let themselves down. And our vision of them, they feel our disappointment. Disappointment or dislike is a vibration, right? Every feeling is a vibration. It has a vibrational field. So if I look at this one and I've got the thought about how they're letting me down, how they're doing it again, the same thing, now that vibration travels to that one and they know it before I ever open my mouth. And they then become defensive because they can feel that there's criticism in my vision, right? That my attitude to them is carrying criticism. But if I look at that one and I see what is special in that one, you know, she is so good with animals. She's like got magic with animals. Or he is so kind. I've just seen him go out of his way to do things to really, really care for people. I love that quality. Or she is so patient. I've watched her sit in situations where just no one I know would have been able to tolerate it, and she was able to tolerate that. You don't even need to say it. You just need to see the specialty in that one. Because when you see the specialty in that one, that's the vibration that your vision will carry. It'll carry, before you ever open your mouth, it will carry that vibration of appreciation, of affection, of respect. What does every soul want? Every soul wants your respect, right? They want to know that you have a good opinion of them, that you have regard for them. If you also love them, then that's frosting on the cake, but they really want your respect. And so if you're looking at the other one with that deep sense of their specialties, I love this about them. Setting aside for a moment the things you don't love, you transform your vision of them. You transform the encounter that you've had with them. So that's number 2. Number 3, you listen with compassion, but you don't take on their sorrow or their anger or their anxiety. So when you listen to someone, a lot of times when someone comes up to you to talk, they want to tell you about what's going wrong, right? What's going wrong at work? What's going wrong with my kid? What's going wrong with my body? What's going wrong with my job? And so if you can hold them with compassion, so you're holding them, you feel that they're really distressed. You're just holding all that's going on for them. You've got them right here, but you don't take in any of that distress. Now, this is a little tricky. This is a little spiritual jujitsu. In other words, you have to know that what they're expressing to you, let's say they're expressing anger and frustration. So if they're expressing anger and frustration, that is an energy, right? Anger is an energy. It's a vibration as well. So that will come out at them towards you. Not that they're not angry at you, but they're feeling angry. So what you have to do, you're holding them in that space of respect, but you're not, you have a bit of a shield around you. You have a bit of a light surrounding you. You have a bit of detachment from them. You have compassion, But you don't go to that space. Oh, I know what that's like. I hate that feeling. I get that. That happens to me too, right? That's what we tend to do. I hate when that happens. I hate waiting in the doctor's office. I hate when the traffic is like that. I hate when the train's so crowded. I hate when people wear masks. I hate when they don't wear masks. I hate, we tend to go there with them, which is not useful for two reasons. One, now I have got anger in me. And two, we didn't lift them up, did we? We came down. We didn't pull them up. So when you are listening, you're listening with compassion, but you're not accepting that vibration that they're putting out. You're not accepting sorrow. You're not accepting worry. You're not accepting anger. You don't accept any of that in. You don't go to that place yourself. You might, if you can't quite imagine how to do this, think about, have you ever seen like a 2-year-old have a big old tantrum somewhere, throw themselves on the floor, sobbing, pounding the floor? You didn't want to lay down on the floor and pound with them, right? You looked at them and said, well, they're having a bad morning. That's too bad. Look at that. That's kind of the stance that you take. Guys, that's too bad. This one is in the grip of anger. I know that feels bad. Let me hold in this space of compassion. Let me hold in this space of peace for them. So what you're doing is the gift you have for them is what they're going to be able to receive after they've expressed all of that that's going on for them. So you listen with compassion, you don't accept it, and then you hold that higher vibration that you want to give them, which might be peace. Could be something else, could be kindness, could be patience, but you hold that and then you donate that back. So that's number 3. Number 4, you give physical support. So sometimes what people need is your company. And your ability to give that physical support means a lot to people. It may mean that you walk someone to the bus. It may mean that you go with them to the grocery. It may mean that you sit with them when they're having a hard time. It's like a physically showing up. When you're doing that, what's most important, your body is important. You're physically present. But the state of your mind is important, just like what we just said. So if someone wants you to sit with them because they're afraid, then you sit with them with courage, the vibration of courage. If you open your mouth and say something, that's fine too. You can certainly say things that are encouraging, but the point, the gift is the state you're sitting in. So you're sitting in a state of courage, they're sitting in a state of fear. What happens in the world is, and what happens in relationship is influence. The place that we lose our ground in relationship is we get influenced by what's going on with the other person. We get influenced by their moods, we get influenced by their behaviors, we get influenced by the things they say. We have a big reaction to those things. So the relationship brings us sorrow because we allow ourselves to be influenced. But if you go into it with the intention that I'm going to be the influencer here, I know he's afraid he's going to lose his job. I know she's afraid they're going to take her driver's license away. I know he's afraid he's going to fail this test. So rather than talking a lot and trying to talk them out of it, or rather than getting upset as well, let me physically be present and hold the state they need. They need courage. Let me sit next to them with courage. They need confidence. Let me sit here with that measure of confidence. They need patience. They're at the end of their rope. Let me sit here with patience. The vibration that you're holding will shift the atmosphere. And when you're able to do this, you will not be influenced, but you will influence them. So your state, the vibrations, the thoughts you're holding. So each thought has a vibrational field. Each feeling has a vibrational field. The more intentional you get about what thought you're bringing, what feeling you're bringing, you hold that feeling or that thought, and you generate a field around you which transforms the relationship. It changes what's going on between you. So you are influencing, but you are not allowing yourself to be influenced. Right? And finally, number 5, you give subtle support. Now, the only difference between physical and subtle support is that you can give subtle support without showing up. So how do we do this? I would suggest to you, you probably do it more than you are aware. You know, if you have anyone you love who is not in the apartment or house with you, and you think of them with a lot of love, you're giving them subtle support. Because that thought travels to that soul. Souls communicate through vibrations. I mean, you can send a postcard, but honestly, they've already received the thought you had when you wrote the postcard. So subtle support is your benevolent thought for that soul, your good wish, your pure feeling for that soul. Let her have courage. I know it's a hard moment. Let him have, let him not feel alone. Let him feel he's in God's company. Let him feel my love. Let him feel the goodness in the world, right? That benevolent thought, that good wish that you have travels like this to the soul. You know, we especially talk about doing this when a soul leaves a body, because that's a tender moment when a soul leaves a body. It's a moment of disorientation, especially if it happens suddenly. So often we can sit with that one. We don't need to be in the same room. They may have left the body somewhere else, but we'll have the thought, may you travel in peace. May this transition be a good one for you. May you see the light. May you feel safe. So this is subtle support. So these are 5 things we do in relationships. So just to review, number 1, see the true being. Number 2, see the specialties, the beauty of that one. Number 3, listen with compassion, but don't take it in. Don't take in whatever they're putting out. Number 4, give physical support, but with that inner stage. And number 5, give subtle support. Now, we did not talk about what you need in this, did we? There's no number 6 that says, ask for what you need, which may feel counterintuitive. But to go back to where we started, we live in a time where human beings do not have much to give. Most human beings are very depleted. They are up against challenges they maybe haven't faced before. They're having surprising things happen to them. They may feel burdened. They may have karmas that they're settling, etc. And honestly, they don't have much to give. Even good people often don't actually have much to give. And what do you really need? Because the things that we really are looking for in relationships, we actually need to look for from our spiritual parent, from the source, because that's the one who can actually give us what we're looking for, not our husband or our wife or our child or our coach or our therapist or our workout coach or whatever. I mean, these different people with whom we have relationships, yes, they can give us a little bit of training or whatever that they're trained to do. But if we're looking for fulfillment from human beings, we're going to be so disappointed. And that's why you came onto a spiritual path, because you were looking for something. You were looking for something. Some of us were looking for love. Anyone looking for love when you came onto the spiritual path? Looking for God? A pretty good number looking for God. Looking for truth? Okay. Looking for clarity? Yeah. We were trying to find something. We knew we were missing something, didn't we? We knew that there was something that we had forgotten, something we already knew, something that would bring things back to where they should be. So we started looking, we started searching. Now, the only thing I would say is you might have, when I found what I was looking for, which was almost 30 years ago, I realized I had a habit of looking. And then at a certain point, I thought, well, let me keep looking. And I had to remind myself that I didn't need to look anymore, that I had found what I was looking for. So don't get trapped in searching, right? When you feel you have found what you were looking for, in other words, I now understand who I am. I'm awake. I'm awake. I know who I am. I know that I'm not this body, this limited being. I know that I am eternal. I know I have these qualities, and I understand now how this works. I begin to feel how all of this works. I now understand who my spiritual parent is, who the source is, the one who has all the capacity that they never lose, the one who has unending love, the one who has endless peace, profound, profound peace, the one who is a source of eternal bliss. And I'm beginning to see how to touch that one. So once we make that contact, once we understand that, and we begin to have a practice of taking those qualities, then one of the things that happens is we stop looking for it in human beings. We stop expecting our husbands and children and neighbors and teachers and all of that to have what we need. We begin to realize that for the true self, the only one that has what we need is the divine, the Supreme Soul. So then we put our attention into cultivating that deepest relationship. And you do that by going to the meditation center, wherever you go. If you go to Manhattan or you go somewhere else, you can come up here to Peace Village and see me. You just log online, find the number, call up and tell them you're coming for a couple of days. You go to wherever it is that will allow you to create that spiritual space inside yourself where you are completely awake. You know who you really are. You're in touch with the current that comes from the divine, and you begin to take all the things you've lost. You take back all those things you've lost. You reclaim your deep and powerful peace. You reclaim that amazing, unlimited love. You claim that super sensuous, joyful bliss that you're totally capable of. And as you fill up, naturally what happens is every relationship around you transforms without you working at it. You don't need to make a plan. Those relationships transform because you are showing up with this natural generosity. Why are you generous? Because you're full. When you're full of peace, you can only do one thing with it, right? You can only share it. I mean, if you ate an enormous, satisfying breakfast, let's say you had the perfect breakfast, you had everything you ever wanted, you had a cup of fancy coffee, you had whatever you eat for breakfast, you walked out the door, you went over to your friends, and your friends said, look, I'm taking you to this fabulous buffet. There's a 12-foot table filled with fruit and omelets and whatever you like for breakfast, muffins. And you would say, what would you say? No thanks, right? I just ate, I'm full. That's how you come to relationships. You come to relationships completely full. Once you're there, what do you say to this poor, frustrated husband who hates his job? You say, gosh, I'm so sorry you're not happy, that you don't like it. Why don't we go for a walk? They don't know how good it is they have it with you. They're lucky to have you. Let's go for a walk. What do you say to the kid who just feels he just can't get into school? You say, you know, when the moment's right, that's going to happen for you. Let's go get an ice cream. I mean, you show up totally different because you are full. You don't want anything from them. You don't want them to be different. I mean, if they want to be different, if they're disappointing themselves, okay, you have compassion for that. But you show up filled with these qualities. You're not looking for them in any relationship. Now, one thing that I'm sure you're thinking is, well, wait a minute. They do have responsibilities. I mean, like, you know, I'm not going to do everything, right? I mean, they have to like take out the trash or get the car washed or something, right? There's some other responsibility aspect to this. And I would say, sure, there is. Of course, you know, it's not that you're going to do everything in the household. But when you see what happens to us, because we're annoyed with these other people, when we ask them to do something, there's a little tinge of our annoyance in there, right? We kind of, it's got a little sharp edge to it because we're a little annoyed with them. But if instead we ask them with love and with patience, say, are you going to be able to get the car washed today? It would really be great if you can. You ask them with that tone, then usually what happens is, sure, yeah, I can do that. So it's not that the other person isn't responsible in the relationship. I don't want to suggest that you have to do everything. It's not that you have to hold up the whole world. But what we're talking about here is your spiritual property, that you don't allow yourself to get defeated or hungry or needy or wanting or depleted, and that you don't expect human beings to make you whole. That you understand that you are a spiritual being and that only the spiritual source can make you whole. From that place, then your life becomes a complete life of service. Everything you do after that is an act of service. Everyone you meet, every conversation you have, everyone you sit next to on the train, all of it, it all becomes service because you can only give because you're so complete and full. So let me pause. I've been jabbering away for quite a while. Do you have any questions you want to ask? Anything, or you want to comment or object, or story you want to share? Anything? Yes, Susan. Be sure to unmute.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, well,
Okay. It's a basic question, but with peace, when getting that true, real peace and maintaining it in the most difficult circumstances, do you have any practical techniques on, I mean, it all sounds good, but I'm a little lost on the how.
all right. So, do you have a daily practice?
Yes,
Okay. So is it a morning practice?
yes.
Okay. So when you sit in the morning, what state do you most often invoke? What is your normal practice when you sit in the morning?
Uh, to get a very good focus, to put the past in the past, not ruminate about the future, things like that.
Good, good. What else do you do?
To be really 100% focused on whatever it is that I'm going to do.
So to be in the present, be really
Yeah,
okay. Do you make peace a focus in your morning meditation?
I do, but sometimes it's easier than others.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Does,
Like
does something crowd it out? Is it that you're starting to focus, but thoughts come in?
sometimes, and sometimes, if it's not during my meditation, but um theoretically it sounds good, but I mean, if you're in a situation.
Moment, what do you do? Right. So what I'm proposing, the reason I'm focusing on your morning is that when you have a strong meditation in the morning, and peace is a good one because it's our ground, right? Because the world is a disturbing place. So when you meditate on peace, now there's many ways to meditate on peace. One way to meditate on peace is to start with the awareness that you yourself are peace. In other words, that you're the basic constituency of the soul. The soul has certain energies that constitute the soul. Like in a table, a wood table, wood is what constitutes the table, right? If I were to say to you, take the wood out of that table, you would say, well, that's stupid. What do you mean? I can't take the wood out of the table. It's a wooden table. I'm telling you, you are a peaceful being. You can't take the peace out of you, but you can lose sight of it because something more disturbing comes in front of your eyes and it eclipses the peace that you are. It clouds it's like when your car window steams up, right? And you can't see the road. It's like that. So when in the morning you make a focus, okay, I'm going to ground myself in deep peace. And you start with I am peace. Now the second part is you came from peace. The world that the soul comes from is called Nirvana. It's called Shantidam. It's called the land of peace, the land beyond sound. That's the home of the soul. The soul actually has a memory of that. Not necessarily a conscious memory, but an unconscious memory, a subconscious memory. So in addition to stabilizing yourself, I am peace, you can also pull that memory down. When I was just a point, when I was just the essence, I was in peace. And the spiritual parent to the soul is the ocean of peace. That's one of the names for God, the ocean of peace. So when you sit in the morning, in addition to putting the past behind you, which is a good practice, and in addition to focusing on the day you're about to have, which is also a good practice, if you take 5 minutes, just 5 minutes, and locate yourself in peace, and if something comes in between you, look at it and let it go, right? So some worry comes in, am I going to make my train? Is this going to go okay today? Acknowledge it, let it go, and recenter on peace in the ways that I've suggested, or another way you have. You might have a poem you work with or something. Make that meditation really strong. Then during the day, when something happens, you should be able then to reach back to what you did in the morning. Instead of trying to look everywhere else, you should have this feeling that in the morning you had that deep experience of peace. You were peace. You had grounded yourself in peace. So see if that helps you by putting it in the morning as a specific intention. I agree with you that in the moment of emotional upset, it's hard to find your ground. It's really hard in that moment. Another thing I sometimes do is I sometimes say in that moment, you know what? I need to take 5 minutes. Is everyone okay with that? Even if I'm with other people, I sometimes will say, I need to step away. They may think I need to check my phone or I need to go to the bathroom. I just need to walk outside or walk somewhere and quiet myself down. And then I'll come back in and I'll say, okay, let's go. So, do what you have to do, because what I love, Susan, about the question is that if I speak from peace, everything that I say is going to work better, right? If I speak from upset, it all unravels, right? That's why we try so hard to stay in peace. But I think that the question is a valid one. And I would say I would start with making your morning really oriented to peace. Try it as an experiment. And then the next time we talk, whether it's online here or you show up at my front door, we'll see how you're doing. But I would start by making that your ground in the morning.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Hi. How
Hi.
can I sign up for more classes from Peace Village, online classes?
I think you will find that our website is soon going to offer you some options. I believe I was in a meeting today that suggested that's going to happen. So keep an eye on the website.
How I will get an email or something?
Are you signed up to
Yeah.
receive? Well, you should then get an email. Or do you get MailChimp from us?
Yeah, I get the every day the thoughts, the Brahmkumari thoughts.
You get those. I'm not sure
Yeah.
from
Because
Peaceful.
I signed up in Mount Abu. When I went to Mount Abu, Peace Village, what
That's
a beautiful place.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place, but you need to sign up locally if you want local MailChimps. You want to put your address in the chat? And
Yeah, it's already there, manjula09@gmail.com. Even last time I put it.
You did.
Nobody got in.
All right, let me ask, I don't see it in the chat. Let me ask if Mona would make sure that
Okay.
she sends it to me, all right? And I'll make
All
sure
right.
you're signed up.
Thank you very, very much.
You're very welcome.
Okay, bye.
All right, bye. Anyone else have anything? You're all good? We want to do a little short meditation together? Okay, let's do that. So, get yourself comfortable. Have your feet on the floor or underneath you, either way. Keep your spine straight. And just allow everything around you to get quiet. Locate yourself as the true self. You are this tiny spark of light sitting right behind the eyes. You, the true self, are actually looking out through those eyes. You're listening through those ears. You're experiencing the world through that body. But you, the true self, are eternal. You belong to God. And as soon as you have that awareness, you find that you're under that canopy of protection. You are peace. And in the natural stillness of the soul, you can feel the whole world. You can sense what's going on with another soul. You can touch the land of peace. And you can pull currents of peace into yourself. So allow that natural flow of that infinite peace to come into the soul. And then think of one soul you know who more than anything right now needs to experience peace. And in an instant, allow the oceans of peace in you to flow to that one. With the good wish that that soul will experience deep comfort and natural stillness. So even as we leave each other tonight, you take this well of peace with you and you share it with everyone you touch. Om Shanti.